They say Australia is the lucky country, a land of sunshine, safety, and opportunity. But for many families today, that luck has run out. Because behind the suburban fences and Instagram-perfect beach shots is a harsh truth that doesn't get enough airtime. Australia's cost of living crisis is quietly breaking families apart. Not in a dramatic, headline-grabbing way. No, it's slower than that. More invisible. It's in the late-night arguments about bills, the empty fuel tank that keeps dad from seeing the kids on weekends, the stay-at-home mom who can't afford to stay home anymore. It's in the stress, the pressure, the exhaustion, the loneliness. This is a story of good people doing their best, only to find that in modern-day Australia, their best is no longer enough. Let's talk about why. First, the reality check. Let's get the numbers straight. Because when we say cost of living crisis, we're not just throwing around dramatic phrases or catchy headlines. It's a harsh, measurable reality for millions of Australians. According to the Australian Bureau of Statistics, ABS, inflation surged to 7.8% in December 2022, marking the highest level in over 3 decades. While inflation has slightly cooled, the prices of essential goods and services, like groceries, rent, electricity, fuel, and childcare, are still climbing at rates that far outpace wages. In just 2 years, grocery prices have increased by over 10%, forcing many families to cut back on basics. Electricity bills saw a sharp jump of 20 to 25% across most states in 2023, making winter heating and summer cooling an expensive luxury for some. Petrol prices have remained stubbornly above $2 per liter in many areas, draining wallets with every trip to work or school. Renters are in perhaps the most dire situation. National rents have soared by over 30% since 2020, with Sydney and Brisbane now ranked among the most unaffordable rental markets globally. And while costs keep rising, wages haven't kept up. In real terms, adjusted for inflation, Australians have lost purchasing power every year since 2020. Behind every one of these numbers is a household quietly struggling to stay afloat. To cope, families are working more. Much more. The pressure to earn enough just to maintain a basic standard of living has pushed households to take on more hours, side gigs, and double shifts. According to a 2024 report by the Grattan Institute, the average Australian household is now clocking up more working hours than at any time in the past 20 years. But here's the kicker. Despite all that extra work, disposable income has barely budged. Wages have failed to keep pace with inflation, and any additional income is quickly eaten up by rising costs. We now live in a country where a 2-income household is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. Both parents often have to work just to keep the lights on, put food in the fridge, and cover rent. But if both parents are working full-time, who's looking after the kids? Childcare, if you can afford it. In some parts of Australia, daycare now costs more than $160 a day per child. Even with government subsidies, many families do the maths and realize that one parent, often the mum, is essentially working just to pay for childcare. It leaves families stuck between 2 bad options: stay home and fall behind financially, or work and lose most of your income to daycare. It's not really a choice, it's a trap, and it's tightening. Let's talk about stress. Not the kind you fix with a yoga class, a bubble bath, or a good night's sleep. We're talking deep, chronic financial stress, the kind that creeps into every corner of your life and slowly wears you down. According to Beyond Blue, financial strain is now one of the leading causes of anxiety and depression in Australian households. Mental health services and family therapists are seeing a clear pattern. Couples aren't breaking up because they've fallen out of love. They're breaking under the weight of money pressure. Here's how it unravels. Arguments about spending become part of the daily routine. Small fights over groceries or school expenses that snowball into deeper resentments. Guilt takes hold when one parent misses yet another school play or bedtime story because they had to pick up a second shift. Frustration grows when the bills keep piling up and the paycheck doesn't stretch far enough, no matter how hard you try. Over time, emotional intimacy breaks down. When you're constantly in survival mode, there's no bandwidth for connection. No space for affection, shared laughter, or planning for the future. Just bills, fatigue, and short tempers. A 2023 survey by Relationships Australia found that 72% of Australians believe financial stress is negatively impacting their relationship, and nearly 1 in 4 couples admitted to considering separation in the past year because of it. The rent trap that's splitting families. Housing is at the center of this crisis. And while it's true that young people are struggling to buy homes, there's another housing story that gets far less attention, the one playing out in the rental market. Because right now, renters, especially families, are getting crushed. Across the country, rents have been rising at double-digit rates year after year. In cities like Brisbane, Sydney, and Perth, the increases are staggering. And it's not just inner-city apartments, it's suburban houses, outer ring rentals, even regional towns. Families are now routinely spending more than 40% of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. That's well above the 30% benchmark economists use to define housing stress. And it's not sustainable. Making matters worse, rental vacancy rates are at historic lows, often below 1%. That means when a house becomes available, dozens of families line up for inspections, and landlords, faced with an oversupply of desperate applicants, can pick and choose. A two-income, child-free couple with a spotless record? Or a single parent with 3 kids and a modest Centrelink top-up? The math isn't hard to guess. So what happens? Families are pushed further and further out, into fringe suburbs with little public transport, into rural areas with few jobs, or even across state lines in search of affordability. But when families move too far from their support systems, they lose more than convenience. They lose grandparents, friends, familiar schools, and vital community connections. And for some, the cost is even higher. Families are breaking apart under the pressure. In cases of separation or divorce, parents who once co-parented under one roof are now priced out of living nearby. One parent takes the kids. The other sleeps in their car or couch surfs with mates. It's not a choice. It's an economic necessity. Children are feeling it too. It's easy to focus on adults when we talk about finances. Bills, rent, wages, and work hours dominate the conversation. But let's not forget, children are feeling this cost of living crisis just as deeply, if not more. According to the Smith family, more than 1 in 6 Australian children now live in poverty. That's over 700,000 kids going without the basics: healthy meals, warm clothes, school supplies, and the opportunity to participate in things that make childhood joyful, like sports, camps, excursions, or music lessons. But it's not just about what they don't have. It's about what they miss out on, what they silently endure. A child might have to quit their favorite sport because the registration fees are too high. Another might skip breakfast on a school day because there's nothing left in the pantry until payday. A teenager might stop inviting friends over, embarrassed by the cold house or the lack of snacks in the kitchen. And the emotional toll is just as heavy. Kids are observant. They hear the whispered arguments about money, see the worry on their parents' faces, and feel the constant tension in the air. Child psychologists are now warning of a growing wave of anxiety, behavioral issues, and emotional withdrawal linked directly to financial hardship. The next generation isn't just living through a crisis, they're absorbing it, shaping their worldview around it, and learning to expect struggle as the norm. There's another cost we don't often talk about, the social one. Rising living costs don't just drain bank accounts, they erode the fabric of our communities. Financial pressure isolates people. When you're juggling 2 jobs just to keep the rent paid, who has time or energy for connection? The casual chats with neighbors, the community barbecues, the birthday gatherings, the volunteer weekends, they all start to vanish when every spare moment is consumed by work, stress, or fatigue. Once upon a time, a sense of community was the quiet backbone that supported families. Grandparents lent a hand with the kids, neighbors shared tools, meals, and conversation, friends looked out for each other in tough times. But now, those bonds are fraying. Families are too stretched, too exhausted, and too caught up in survival to sustain the relationships that once made life richer and more bearable. The result is a quieter, deeper kind of suffering. The elderly feel more isolated than ever, often going days without meaningful human interaction. Parents are burning out behind closed doors, silently drowning in responsibility. Children sense the disconnection and carry it in their growing anxiety. And in this increasing loneliness, the cracks in our society grow wider. Because it's hard to stay resilient when you feel like you're doing it all alone. This might be the most confronting part of all. We're not just talking about families below the poverty line. We're talking about the middle class: nurses, teachers, tradies, admin workers, retail managers, people who did everything by the book. They studied hard, got qualifications, found stable jobs, tried to buy homes, raised their kids, paid their taxes. They played by the rules, and still, it's not enough. A recent survey by Finder revealed that 52% of middle-income Australians, those earning between $50,000 and $100,000, are now living paycheck to paycheck. That's more than half. No savings, no safety net, just one unexpected bill, one medical emergency, one missed paycheck away from financial disaster. And these aren't people who blow their money on luxuries or live beyond their means. They're budgeting, they're cutting back, they're skipping holidays, delaying dental visits, shopping secondhand, eating out less, doing all the right things. But the rent keeps rising, the bills keep coming, and their income just doesn't keep up. It's a devastating reality. Working full-time, contributing to society, doing your best, and still struggling to stay afloat. The emotional toll of that? It's crushing. Because nothing messes with your sense of self like doing everything right and still falling behind. So, where does this all lead? When families are stretched to breaking point, when survival becomes the daily goal rather than growth, love, or joy, the effects don't stay behind closed doors. They ripple outward, quietly but powerfully, shaping the future of the country. Constant financial strain doesn't just hurt individuals. It corrodes the very foundation of society. The risks are clear and deeply concerning. Divorce rates rise as money stress pushes relationships to the brink. Mental health issues multiply, with anxiety, depression, and burnout becoming alarmingly common. Birth rates drop, not because people don't want children, but because they simply can't afford them. And children raised in hardship are more likely to carry that burden into adulthood, fueling a cycle of generational poverty that becomes harder to break with each passing year. If the family is the cornerstone of a stable society, then what happens when families are breaking under the weight of basic living costs? We risk a future defined by social fragmentation, by disconnection, disillusionment, and despair. And let's be clear, this isn't happening because Australians are lazy, reckless, or entitled. It's not the result of bad choices, it's the result of bad economics. The truth is painfully simple. The cost of existing in this country, having a home, putting food on the table, accessing education and healthcare, is now too high for too many. What can be done? For families, the solution isn't just about waiting for policies to change, it's about taking action now, in whatever way possible to gain back some control over a situation that often feels overwhelming. Here's what can be done. The first step in regaining some peace of mind is leaning on others. Reach out to family, friends, and neighbors, even if it's just for a chat or to share resources. Start local community groups to help each other out, whether it's swapping childcare duties, sharing groceries, or helping with household tasks. A support network can lighten the load, even if only a little, and reduce isolation. There's no shame in asking for help when it comes to managing finances. Many nonprofits and financial advisory services offer free or low-cost consultations to help families create realistic budgets, deal with debt, and plan long-term. It might feel daunting, but understanding where your money is going and how you can make small adjustments can make a big difference. It might feel like cutting back means more sacrifice, but reevaluating what's essential versus what's indulgent can sometimes offer more breathing room. Can you reduce non-essentials? Maybe shifting to more affordable brands or finding cheaper ways to get groceries, like shopping in bulk or looking for deals, can save you enough to ease some pressure. Look at subscription services or memberships that aren't being used and reconsider them. If you haven't already, explore every government assistance option available: childcare subsidies, rental assistance, food programs, and mental health support services. It's not a sign of failure. It's a resource to ensure you don't fall through the cracks. While these actions might not immediately solve the bigger economic issues, they can help create a stronger foundation for families to stand on while pushing for broader, necessary changes. Australia still has a lot going for it. But if we want to call it the lucky country in the future, we need to make sure families are part of that luck, not casualties of it. Because the truth is stark. If we don't fix the cost of living crisis, we will keep breaking the very foundation of our society, our families. Not with a bang, but with a slow, relentless squeeze. And one day we'll look around and realize the damage wasn't sudden. It was happening all along, quietly, invisibly. In the spaces between the bills, the missed dinners, the broken relationships. But there is still time to change that story. Thank you for watching.